OK, well, I'm going to kick us off because this is quite a serious topic and it's left me relatively infuriated having read it this week. Children as young as 5 years old are being told to write Valentine's Day cards to illegal migrants and asylum seekers, scribbling heart-shaped notes saying, "You are welcome here," in Labour-run Birmingham. This is the work of Schools of Sanctuary network spanning 1,200 schools across the UK, turning classrooms into activist hubs. But that's not it, because it gets worse. Some schools are holding special refugee days with asylum seekers giving talks to young kids who are then directed to craft the welcome messages. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has nailed this. Labour's turning classrooms into propaganda hubs. I couldn't agree more. But meanwhile, we've seen far too many cases of child rape and sexual abuse cases linked to illegal migrants for this surely to be deemed acceptable. Well, Birmingham Council's ducked any blame, saying it's a national scheme by the City of Sanctuary network, which they joined in 2015, boasting about migrants as the cultural capital. Well, the Sanctuary folks call it a kind act of welcoming. Some of you might nod along to this, though. Some of you might say this is a nice thing to do. But picture this. Your 5-year-old writing a Valentine's Day card meant for secret crushes and secret loves, by the way. That's how we know what a Valentine's Day card is in this country. To someone from a culture where 12 years old is seen as old enough for consent. Think of a human rights lawyer who will potentially twist that into a defence for an illegal migrant claiming they're confused about our laws. Wake up, people. This is a slippery slope. This is not compassion. It is ideology. It is weaponising children in their classrooms. Leave them to learn, not to push your politics. And just on this topic, I want to thank Charlotte Gill. She's an independent journalist. She has been working very, very hard on this story. Will, I will start with you. What do you make of this story? It was in the national news today and reported by Charlotte Gill over the course of the week.
Yeah, and then nicked by the Telegraph, I noted. Alex, this is just gross. There's no other word for it. It is gross. I think it's gross getting 5-year-olds to send Valentine's cards full stop. It's even worse that they're sending Valentine's Day cards to random men, and then it is absolutely morally reprehensible that they're sending them to random men who we now know have a high statistical probability of going out and committing sexual crimes in this country. It is disgusting. It's propaganda. I just cannot understand what would be going through the minds of teachers or this particular charity to get them to do this.
I mean, look, whilst I agree with everything that Will says, the reason I am horrified by this is that schools should be a place of safety, but it should also be a place of education. Our children should be being taught at 5 how to read and write and learn maths and how to make relationships with their classrooms. They should not be being taught anything about this, about sexuality, about the trans stuff, but our schools and then our universities have become propaganda hubs designed to turn out these woke young adults who agree with this ongoing narrative of one global world. It's a disgrace.
Kai, listen, my biggest problem with all of this is quite simple, really. A Valentine's Day card is an announcement of love for somebody. It's a secret crush. That is how our society and our culture... Tell me if I'm wrong, by the way. I mean, tell me on your side if you all think I'm wrong. But this is how it's been known to go down in my entire life. You write a Valentine's Day to someone you're in love with or you'll secretly have a crush over. Is this not sending an extremely dangerous message when you're coming from 5-year-old children?
I think the framing of them as Valentine's Day cards is a bit misleading, really. They're welcome letters. You can't really control what a kid does, how they interpret it. They're 5-year-olds.
But it's not how the child interprets it, it's how the man, the 40-year-old...
And they're anonymised letters, right?
But they're coming into classrooms, Kai.
You talk about education, Renee. I would rather that we don't turn a blind eye to the horrors that unfold all across the world, day in, day out, to Afghans, to Syrians, to Iranians. I don't think that welcoming those people into our country, trying to make it a cohesive environment, trying to improve integration is a bad thing.
We don't have to turn a blind eye, but 5-year-olds should not be worried about horrors around the world. I turn my radio off.
This is not new.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not new. We did, in primary school, Operation Christmas Child. I'd imagine children that people like Alice and many of us actually would have,
And this
where
is
you
why
pack
you
a
turned out
shoebox,
how you did.
pack a shoebox full of things, gifts for Christmas, and send those off to countries across the world.
To Africa. Hang on.
No, all across the world.
Hang on.
Because we don't. But what were they just
You're
saying?
being outrageous.
No, I'm not.
We used to send gifts to kids in Africa, children in Africa, not 40-year-old men that are living in this country potentially down the road from these children whose schools they are visiting. Come on, Kai, this is
But
nonsense.
Renee was saying that we shouldn't be educating primary school children about the horrors that happen across
Well,
the
they
world.
don't
Well,
need
that's
to.
what we were
They
doing.
shouldn't.
We were learning that we're quite lucky in this country, that we live in a democracy, we live in quite a safe community, and that we're welcoming of people from all across the world who want to make a living in.
You
Okay,
are.
I think that's a
what
good
Trey
thing.
thinks.
Oh, it's a hard one, guys, because I don't actually know the details inside. But I am a bit inclined to agree with Kai. I think there's nothing. You've got to think, right? A lot of the migrants that come over, a lot of them who are actual refugees and ones that are granted refugee, people like my wife, they do deserve the kind of love, the care, the understanding. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of them are coming from absolutely horrific parts of the world. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. You know, I can't disagree
Talk
with
about the
that.
5-year-olds, mate. That's not the story. We're talking about the fact that 5-year-olds are sending letters to economic.
But that's the thing. No. From that point of view, because I don't know enough about this story. From that
very
point
simple.
of view,
We just talked.
Yeah, no. But is it Valentine's Days or is
No,
it
they're
some sort
welcome
of welcoming
letters.
No,
stuff?
it's
That's very different.
it's irrelevant.
If
No,
it's
it's not. It matters
Valentine's,
a great deal, because
One at a time.
if it's Valentine's, absolutely not. It's indefensible, right? But if it's some sort of welcoming to people who generally have been through horror, I mean, it won't just be men, it'll be women, it'll be children, it'll be lots of people, I imagine, just generally migrants. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's just to men, of course, that's going to be an
There
issue.
is no place in our 5-year-olds' education to even worry them about this kind of nonsense.
When we were kids,
No
like you said
place.
about Africa, we used to worry about
No
people in Ethiopia
place.
that were starving. We would worry about people
Exactly.
in war-torn countries. We would worry about a ton of people around the
No.
world.
Come
on, Renee.
Isn't that the
This-
right
come-
kind of
this
values
isn't
to be
me.
sending to people to have some level of compassion for
Can we
people?
also just stop lying to the audience? We now know that somewhere between 80 to 90% of the people who are coming into this country are not coming as genuine refugees. We know this now. It is beyond debate. Stop misframing the argument.
Yeah, can I just say my big worry with this, and this is what sparked national protest this weekend, is that parents are concerned about the safety of women and of children in this country. And I think the look that this gives, and you can make the argument that it's a nice thing to do, and we should be welcoming to genuine refugees. If they are genuine, I agree with you, and many people would agree. But we do know that, I mean, I strongly believe 8 out of 1, even 9 out of 10 of them are not genuine refugees. And also we know there is a danger to children, there is a danger to women. And I think fairly that is concerning hundreds, thousands of people up and down this country. And then to see that kids are being at school told to write heart-shaped cards, like Valentine's Day cards,
Alex,
to grown men is wrong.
Alex,
It's a
there's
wrong
another.
thing to do.
What you're doing is you're highlighting something else. We're now saying to these young children, these are nice people. Send them a card, you can trust them. So when they're 9 and 10 and they get approached by the nice migrant down the road who then sexually assaults them, they might do that because they're more trusting. There is no...
But guys,
And we're also sending the message to migrants inherently who don't often have an understanding of consent and the way that we choose to treat children and women in this country.
That was my other
this is
But
something.
guys, if we're going to paint it that way, there's no way I'm going to defend that. You know that. But there seems to be this picture of painting just migrants. Because if that's the case, would we not then extend that same concern to, you know, members of the clergy, for instance, who are
I
found to be
totally
doing
agree.
stuff?
I do not-
Is
I
the
don't
outrage
agree.
only when the perpetrator is a migrant? Or is
No,
it
no,
a genuine...
I
there's
don't-
lots of
it's-
homegrown people.
It's not, but we also haven't seen
Such
any stories of
strawman
kids writing
No,
things
but
to their
it's
local
true, though.
priest,
It does
right?
seem something
And
like...
I just think on this matter, I think the point is this. First of all, we are seeing ridiculous cases go through our court system where people are getting off, being deported for the most ridiculous statements. And one of them, I think, will happen is if a migrant has received a love letter from a child and then, you know, hypothetically does something to that child which is so sick I won't even mention it on TV, then that is a defence for them, right? And even one excuse is one too many.
Yeah, and try to answer your question.
I'm not. Political temperature is just not right for us.
100%. You guys know, I'm a recent father. One sec, Will.
Yeah.
I will not condone that in the way
I
that
know
you say.
yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
And I'm sure you wouldn't either.
not in the way
that's been said.
But I think that's
but
what
if
we're
it's
saying
been
here.
done in a sense of welcoming people who've
No.
come from hardship, fine. That's okay.
I think the
Trade,
difficulty
that's
is, because we've got to wrap this up, the difficulty is how do you distinguish that? And we can't distinguish that. And when we see what we're seeing at the moment, it's very hard for even a single one of these to be justified, in my opinion. But anyway, look, I want to read out what Birmingham City Council has said. They have stressed that the scheme was a national one launched by a charity city sanctuary network and was independent of local authorities. The spokesman said, schools apply independently to become schools of sanctuary. In a diverse, welcoming and inclusive city like Birmingham, it comes as no surprise that several schools across the city have signed up independently to be a school of sanctuary. Cities of Sanctuary UK, which operates the network, said that they are not directly involved in the delivery of activities in schools, but they understand that the welcome card activity reference involved children writing anonymised letters to welcome people of seeking safety in their communities. They added, we are confident that teachers adopt rigorous safeguarding approaches when undertaking any activity in school in line with their responsibilities to ensure every child is safe.
Cop out.
Okay, right.